chills.
Number 5. Lashaya Naystein. On July 23rd of this year, straight-A student Lashaya Naystein leaves her Aurora, Colorado home at 2:15 in the morning. The 16-year-old has plans to meet someone and she is wearing a white long-sleeve shirt with black jeans. Police think that this was most likely the last night of her life, but not necessarily her last outfit. When Lashaya's mother, Sabrina Jones, wakes up the next day, she can't find her daughter anywhere and immediately suspects that something was wrong. She knows that if her daughter was going to spend the night somewhere, then she would have taken some important things with her. Lashaya had instead left her wallet and cell phone charger at home, and she didn't take any spare clothes with her either. On top of that, Lashaya had an interview for an internship at a local hospital that day. It was all she could talk about lately, so there was no way she would miss it. This was all too out of character to mean anything but trouble. Police agree that the situation looks suspicious and start to investigate. Detectives are able to track her last known whereabouts using surveillance camera footage. The last time she was filmed was near a bus stop at 2:23. She appears to be walking in a hurry as she checks over her shoulder and briskly crosses the street. Police are also able to track down a witness who claims to have seen her at 2:30, and here's where things get strange. When the person sees Lashaya later that night, she has on a black tank top and blue shorts. This description doesn't match what she was last seen wearing on video. Since this is an active investigation, police won't say much else about what the witness saw or even who they were. The police will say, however, that they have uncovered information that caused them to have a quote, "a greater concern for her safety." Lashaya's grieving family has since created a GoFundMe page in the wake of her absence. They are completely desperate at this point and hope to use whatever money they can raise as a potential reward for her return. If enough people donate, they hope to get their daughter back. Here's the address. Months later, no arrests have been made. Lashaya's body has yet to be found. Nobody has any idea how she apparently managed to change outfits despite taking no extra clothes with her, as seen on camera. Number 4. Kiera Stubbs. In 2014, Kiera Stubbs was dropped off at a cell phone store by her brother. The 23-year-old Birmingham, Alabama woman was going to meet a man to help fix her car. A purple 2012 Chrysler soon pulls up to her a short while later. Kiera has a conversation with the man through his roll-down window, and then she goes around and gets inside. The car backs up and drives away with her inside of it. An hour and a half goes by. Now her brother is getting worried and contacts police. It's 2 years later and no one has seen Kiera since. Convinced that the man driving the Chrysler is the one responsible for Kiera's disappearance though. She had only been talking to him for a month over the phone when she got into his car that day. After she asked him for money to fix her brakes, he told her to meet him in the parking lot of the phone store. She had never gotten in the car with him before then, her family says. He either killed her or maybe he even still has her to this day, they say. They are absolutely sure of it. When police interviewed the man who was last seen with Kiera, however, his answers speak of a completely different story. According to the man, whose name has not been released because there have been no charges, he says that he dropped her off in the exact same area a short while later. Whatever happened to her from there is beyond his knowledge. The circumstances seem suspicious, but there's not much that detectives can do. His story is solid enough that police aren't able to get a search warrant for his home, which means that Kiera could still be in there to this very day for all they know, or at least her body. "We're not sleeping, we hardly eat," says Kiera's grandmother 2 years later. The missing woman leaves behind 2 children, ages 3 and 6. They still sometimes ask if their mother will be coming home. Number 3. Stephen Kosher. In December of 2009, 30-year-old Stephen Kosher left his home in St. George, Utah. The next morning, he gets a cell phone call from his friend, Greg Webb. Stephen tells Greg that he is headed to Las Vegas, but that Greg really needs for him to fill in at a local church meeting. Then he can turn right around and be there on time. Greg tells his friend that was not necessary and hangs up. Greg doesn't think that his friend is in any trouble. It really wasn't odd for him to take spur-of-the-moment road trips like this from time to time. 2 days later, his white 2003 Chevrolet Cavalier is found in a dead-end road in Henderson, Nevada. Inside, police find a shaving kit, coats, sleeping supplies, and Christmas gifts for his cousins. Missing are his wallet, cell phone, passport, and driver's license. The car still has a half a tank of gas, so he didn't abandon it for that reason. Steven's family and friends can't figure out why he would take off. It just doesn't make sense. Sure, he had been having financial troubles lately, but he had also been searching for a job full-time and sending out resumes. Wouldn't he at least wait for a response before totally giving up? Plus, if he was really planning on running away, then why did he not take his cell phone charger and laptop with him? Why buy presents for his cousins? He was a religious man who loved his family and wanted to live. None of it made sense. Police checked the surveillance tapes from where his car was located. They see Steven pull up and get out of his car. He walks down a sidewalk and crosses the street out of sight. No one was with him and he appeared to be walking with a purpose. He does not appear to be intoxicated at all. Police check his cell phone logs and discover that 5 hours after he left his car, his coordinates put him in an area that was more than 3 miles away. The next morning, police can tell that someone has checked his voicemail. The signal continues to be picked up for about 2 more days and then goes cold. Whether it really was Steven or just someone who killed or kidnapped him remains to be determined. Either way, his phone continued to be used for hours after he was last seen. The search for Steven continues to this day. In 2015, over 200 volunteers combed a 25 square mile radius looking for Steven's remains across rocks and canyons. Even a single piece of DNA evidence would have helped them crack the case, but unfortunately the team came up empty-handed. As such, the case remains unsolved to this day. Number 2, Alan Geel. In February of 2014, a dead body washed up on an English beach in Perrin-Porth. A dog walker discovered the nearly nude corpse at 2 p.m. during high tide. The 64-year-old dead man had visible injuries to his chest, head, and hand, along with a pair of earphones and a sock shoved into his mouth. An autopsy was unable to confirm drowning as the cause of death. Possible foul play was suspected. Police find a number of mysterious items near the body. There was a jacket, a wallet, a photo of a toddler, a woolly hat, and a rucksack were found on the beach as well. Though these 2 items may not belong to him. Police were only able to identify him as Alan Geel after they posted an artist's recreation of him online and his family responded. They were able to use surveillance footage to track Alan's movements all around the city. As the tapes show, he spends most of the day taking a series of buses and long walks around the center of town in no real hurry. At one point, he is seen talking to strangers at a bus stop, but the police are unable to identify the people he speaks with. Afterwards, he catches a ride to Perrin-Porth. Cameras catch him walking around Perrin-Porth between 10:25 and 10:27 at night. It was the last time he was seen on tape before his body washed ashore sometime later. Police determined that at some point he bought ankle weights and chest weights. This would be something that a person who wanted to drown themselves would wear. People who knew Alan described him as a loner, so suicide does seem like a possibility. However, no such weights were found on his dead body, and what became of them is still unknown. In addition, his injuries were determined to be not self-inflicted, meaning that he had to have gotten in some sort of altercation before he was cast into the ocean. Absolutely nobody knows for sure whatever happened to Al Geel for sure. As for the photo he was found with, authorities believe it to be a picture of him at the age of 2. This just adds a whole new level to the bizarreness of the mystery. Number 1, Lyle and Marie Ann McCann. In July of 2010, Lyle and Marie Ann McCann decide to go on a road trip to British Columbia. After spending a couple of hours on the road, a surveillance camera at a gas station shows the 78-year-old filling up his camper while his 77-year-old wife gets cookies and canned goods inside. This ordinary footage suddenly becomes bone-chilling when you realize that this is their last recorded moments on Earth. 2 days later, the McCann's burned-up camper is found at a campsite just outside Edson, but their bodies are never found. Even though the camper was completely burned from the inside out, the police don't investigate much because it is so common for meth addicts to burn stolen cars in that area. 11 days after that, the couple's SUV that was hitched to the camper is discovered just 15 miles away. Inside, police find Mary Ann McCann's blood and Lyle's hat, which has a bullet hole in it. There's also an empty beer can with more DNA evidence on it as well. Police suspect the murderer to be a person named Travis Vader. Travis once owned a thriving oil field consulting company, but it all fell apart after his wife met someone else online. Travis went on to develop a meth and alcohol habit that would put him in and out of jail and leave him desperate for cash. That's when they think he came across Lyle and Marianne. Sometime between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, police suspect Travis tried to steal money from the elderly couple. He then killed them and stole their camper. After a short drive, he decided to burn the camper and abandon the SUV. This theory is supported by 5 phone calls and 2 text messages that are made to Travis's girlfriend using Lyle's cell phone. One of the text messages ends with a nickname, "It's me, T." Since T is the first initial in Travis's name, it seems obvious that he is the one who made the calls. The DNA on the hat and the beer can also point to Travis as well. There's only one thing. Travis has another meth-addicted friend named Terry McColeman. Terry was just as desperate as Travis and was also known for burning stolen cars. He also knew Travis's girlfriend and he had the same first initial as Travis. So he could have killed the McCanns and made the calls. To make matters even more complicated, Terry died before police could question him further. As for the DNA evidence, Travis's lawyer argued that all it shows was that Travis had looked inside of the vehicle sometime after it had been abandoned. Travis's lawyer argued that all it shows was that Travis had looked inside of the vehicle sometime after it had been stolen, sometime after it had been abandoned. Travis could have simply stuck his head inside and sneezed or even touched an object that somehow ended up inside of the vehicle later. He also could have stolen the vehicle himself after Terry or someone else had committed murder. Some evidence, however, was harder to disprove. For example, there was a stolen white pickup truck that police found burned to a crisp. Inside this pickup truck were the keys to the McCann's SUV. A witness named Dave Olson said Travis burned a similar looking white pickup truck earlier. In exchange for testifying, however, Dave Olson was paid $25,000 by court system in the form of witness protection expenses. Travis's defense team is trying to say that this is a bribe, and they are calling for a mistrial. They believe that the police planted the keys on the white pickup truck to begin with and used false testimony from a phony witness. Multiple witnesses all said that Travis couldn't have murdered the McCanns because he spent the entire day sleeping on a friend's couch. Either way, it took prosecutors 2 years to charge Travis with murder and take him to court in 2014. The charges were thrown out based on a lack of evidence and then reinstated. All of this happened over the course of a single year. Travis Vader was found guilty of murder in September of this year, but his appeals continue to this day. A judge is supposed to decide whether or not he is a victim of a mistrial on October 30th. Even though it is apparent that the McCanns were murdered, their circumstances remain a mystery. Police still aren't sure exactly what time they were murdered, where they were murdered, or where their remains are today. It's also quite possible that Travis could have acted with a partner who is still at large, waiting to strike again. Before you go, I wanted to tell you about the giveaway I'm hosting. But first off, thanks for watching and leave a like so I know you made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe because I upload new videos every week. My name is Chills and I'm thanking you all for your support by giving away 3 $100 Amazon.com gift cards. It's completely free to enter and you can enter the giveaway by visiting the link at the very bottom of the description. It doesn't matter when you're watching this video because top15s.net/giveaway will automatically direct you to my most recent giveaway. See the terms and conditions on the linked page for full details. If you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is at YT_chills and my Instagram is at DylanIsChillinYT with underscores instead of spaces. Feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions or suggestions. See ya.